Welcome back to the Pima Dems podcast. Unfortunately, you guys are stuck with me. I'm Alex Kack, and today I am honored to be joined by Pima County Supervisor Jen Allen. Jen, how you doing today?
I am good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. So Jen, uh, you're in the middle of your first term right now. Uh, you had a primary you got through, a general election last year. And you had a I think people forget you had three candidates in your race, in a year in your general election race, in a year where Democrats weren't doing so hot. You were still successful. What do you credit that towards? What do you think that you and your team maybe got right that some of our other folks around the country simply maybe missed last year?
Um, it's not to say that other people don't do it, but just for our campaign, knocking on doors. Just the tried and true. I think we knocked on about 18,000 doors in District 3 from the primary and the general. And it's District 3 is a massive district. It is about 70% of Pima County, just for the one district. The other four districts have the other, 30 odd percent. So we were all over the place and just, dug in and talked to folks. I think that it just makes such a difference to be seen, but also to be listening.
I couldn't agree more. I think that that piece about listening is something I feel like I'm reflecting on often, because that's you read these think pieces about populist anger or you know mistrust, whether things are too far left or too far right or whether it's moderate. And the thing that I often hear the most is simply just that people's frustrations are that they feel like they're not being listened to by their elected officials, by the candidates running to represent them. How has that process gone now that you're in office? What are the things, the steps you're taking to make sure that you're still listening now that you are an elected official?
I'm talking to you from my lovely office in downtown Tucson, up on the 11th floor of a building. This is not the most accessible place. So one of the things we did is set up office hours, remote office hours all over the district. So every other month, I spend 3 hours in, let's see if I can name it all. I'll probably forget somewhere. Picture Rocks. Actually, Picture Rocks is new and will start in January. Marana, Flowing Wells, Sahuarita, Aravaca, Ajo, Three Points. Feel like I'm missing something in there. But all that is to say, we just set up a table and we hold them at places where people already are. So Sahuarita, when on one of the days that people are picking up their food boxes. And I'll kind of jump out as people are waiting and do a quick overview and introduction in English and Spanish and let folks know that, what we're doing and to come on over and talk to us. And it's just a constant flow of people. We have community meetings on issues that we find that are happening and are kind of top of mind for folks. We've had a number of community meetings held, like big, kind of big open community meetings in the Marana area. In Ajo, we show up. Folks were struggling with the closing, the ending of senior meals programs. So we've been rolling up our sleeves, pulling volunteers together and figuring out how we can pull that back together. So, I think just pulling people together and being there. And yeah, so and we've gotten great feedback from doing that. I've heard both from Republicans and Democrats have come up and said at some of the community meetings and office hours that, they might be a Republican, but they support me because we're there. And so we'll continue to do that.
No, and it's honestly, I mean, it's inspiring to hear whenever you can kind of bridge those divides. And I think sometimes we forget just how much just literally just presence and just really trying to actually make inroads in your community in order to represent it can achieve that.
Yeah. The other,
Um,
if I could
oh,
just add one other little thing
absolutely,
too,
please.
because I think a lot of people don't know what the Board of Supervisors is and what is the role of county government. So we've also been trying to make sure that we are always articulating what is the role of the board, what does the county do, why does it matter in people's lives, and then also doing some little things that are just kind of trying to keep up some transparency. So we do a little video after the Board of Supervisors meeting to talk about and distill some of the key decisions that were made. We get some really good feedback that people appreciate. Being able to watch a 10-minute video as opposed to the 7-hour meeting. But just that they have a lot deeper understanding of what the board does. And so that's also something that we try to do consistently is really breaking down and making it a little more accessible what it is that we do and why it matters.
If there was one single thing, and I know this is probably impossible, but if there was one single thing that you wish the entire populace of the county understood about the Board of Supervisors and their role, what would it be?
One single thing. I mean, I guess just call us. I sort of talk about how the board has three big roles, right? One is to approve and monitor the budget. The other is around setting policy for the things contained within the budget and giving the county direction. But the third is about constituent services. A huge part of our job is trying to make the services, the resources, the infrastructure that the county has more accessible for people. So if folks are getting stuck, they don't know who to call or they've been on hold, just call our office. And part of what we do and my amazing team does is just help people navigate so that they can get what they need and they can get it quickly and easily. So I guess it's just the short one is just call us.
I mean, I think that's about as good a message as you could put out there to the public. Let's talk more about you in this role. What are the things that you really want to accomplish as a member of the Board of Supervisors, or that you're at least hoping that maybe the county itself will do over the course of your first term?
Yeah, so I think the benefit of knocking on a whole bunch of doors during the campaign is that you get a lot of feedback. And I think from that feedback, um, we kind of created about four categories or, like large, high level priorities that we're working on. One of them is around climate change and conservation, environmental protection, water. The other is second is about affordable housing. And that it's broad. It's everything from housing for folks who are on the streets, keeping people in their homes, home repair programs, and then just building more homes. We have a massive affordable housing gap in our community. Um, Criminal justice. One of the reasons I ran was because a few years ago, the county jail had one of the highest per capita jail death rates in the United States. So I started looking at who the decision makers were. The sheriff is obviously one, but then the board sets policy for what happens kind of around in some of the programs, et cetera, around the jail. So I want to ensure that we are not using our jail for to take the place of really investing in treatment, mental health treatment, substance use disorder treatment, those to be effective to make our community well, healthy, whole, can't happen in an carceral setting and shouldn't happen in an carceral setting. Um, and then the fourth category is just around rural communities and making sure that the resources, the services, infrastructure isn't all just concentrated where it is easiest, but is instead spread out across Pima County and reaching rural communities. So those are kind of the broad strokes. There's lots of things that come up that, pull us off track, but then, we get ourselves back on track when we can and keep trying to drive forward some of what we hear and issues that come up from constituents and yeah.
What do you think are the biggest issues and challenges that are facing the county right now?
How much time do we have? Um, well, I mean, water is a huge one. You know, we have got, I'm sure at some point in this we will talk about Project Blue, but just as a little preemption, we've got, obviously Project Blue still in the works here in the, outside of Tucson. But Miranda's talking about data centers. Sahuarita is talking about data center. We've heard that Davis Montham is putting out an RFP for data center. So, we need to at some point, and I think most of us are kind of focused on the one that sits in whatever our jurisdiction is, but we got to pop up a level and think about what is happening at the county-wide level, both to our water, but also to the energy demand and the consequence that that will have on water and customer rates, and perhaps the prolonging of coal-fired power plants, the increased gas infrastructure. So there's that whole bucket. Um, we gotta invest at particularly at a time, unfortunately, at a time where we don't have a whole lot to invest, but in housing and treatment, to deal with the opioid crisis, the fentanyl crisis, and the unhoused. And so that is a biggie. And then we just got this like, revolving door of things that are befall us from the Trump administration. And so we have to ensure that we have a social safety net that can catch our community members so we don't have more folks falling through and having to make difficult decisions about food. Do I buy food? Do I pay for my rent, my mortgage, or my utilities? And then we know on the horizon that healthcare is going to be, they're tightening up access. And so we got a healthcare crisis. Oh, and the rate increases. So that's on the horizon too. So, there's a few things.
Just a few. You mentioned Project Blue. We talked about data centers, obviously. As you said, we kind of have to touch on it more. I like the piece that you said, though, about how we kind of can get tied up thinking about just one data center when there are, frankly, it seems like so many headed this direction. Um, you know, we think about, Trump's executive order. We think about Kirsten Sinema's recent comments at a public meeting about the utilization of that executive order and the possibility of federal preemption. And there is just this feeling of inevitability, to these things. But what in your mind can be done on this subject? How can we move forward and, maybe try to redirect them to somewhere where maybe it makes a little bit more sense environmentally, or at a bare minimum, is there a way to make these things make sense in our environment?
Yeah.
And please explain both like I'm five, because on this subject, I might as well be.
So, I mean, one thing I would be remiss to say that we have actually done a lot to try to make it so that we don't end up in the situation that we were in with Project Blue. So, after the Board of Supervisors took its vote doing the approving the land sale and the zoning for the 290-acre parcel that is county land, of which I was in the minority, myself and Supervisor Cano, we introduced four other measures that I think are critical to having a much better handle on future data centers. So we got through a policy now that's called like a enhanced due diligence. What that means is that when there is in the economic development world another data center or a large water and energy user, we now have a process in place in the county that requires a comprehensive, robust, like environmental, public health, cultural resources review, both of what the impacts will be of the proposed project, what the longer term impacts will be of that project, meaning the short term, the long term, because most of these projects happen in phases. So we will require to know what the ultimate impact will be, and then the cumulative impact, looking around at the totality of other projects in the region so that we can see that bigger picture draw on energy and water, and other factors. So we now will do that for new projects. We also passed a reform of the use of non-disclosure agreements in the county. That was part of the problem, which we did not know. I had such little information going into our June vote. Um, so this now reforms NDA use. There we can have NDAs that the economic development that the county can go into. They can go for 180 days. That's like 6 months. Um, and then at that point, it has to come to the Board of Supervisors, where we can then decide whether or not the NDA should continue, should be amended, or should be ended. And it also requires that 90 days before any public body is going to take a vote on this project that is under an NDA, be it planning and zoning, be it the Board of Supervisors, NDAs end. So for 90 days then, and then combining this with our due diligence policy, information is going to be available. Comprehensive information will be available to the public, to the media, and policymakers, so that we can make informed decisions. We also passed a policy. I don't know, that's probably not the right word. But we are calling for our lobbyists to work with other municipalities around the state to put an end to the sales tax exemption that data centers enjoy on purchases of equipment in the state. And then we also started, along with the city, the process, and I think it's like a code text amendment, but it's kind of a lengthy process. It'll wrap up in March that will change the zoning for data centers as well as other large energy and utility, water and utility users, so that they don't get these kind of quick, simple approvals, but they will actually require robust information being shared with planning and zoning. Conditions can be added. Public input is available through it. Um, sorry.
No worries.
So those four things we got through back in like June and July. So I can sleep a little bit better knowing that those are in place. Um, so your question was, where are we now? What can we do, or what's going on?
Or I mean, yeah, I mean, I think the question a little bit is um, not just in terms of Project Blue itself, but in terms of moving large data centers here into the Sonoran Desert. Uh, is there a viable or feasible path forward where where maybe that just doesn't happen? I mean, I don't know why I'm trying to
Yeah.
make it sound like it's more than it is. But
Yeah.
what we from the party seem to be seeing out in the community right now is a real genuine concern, not just about this one, but about any of these projects being developed here. Do you think that that's the right concern to have for folks? And if so, what can be done to prevent them in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a real concern. And I think if we zoom out, right, like, because like we all tend to focus, so the county's focused on the Project Blue, and looking at our 290 acre parcel and what is proposed there. But we also know that there's discussions happening in Marana, there's discussions happening in Sahuarita. The Davis Montham is putting out an RFP for siting a data center on the base. So, if we zoom out, the totality of what is being considered right now is incredibly alarming, because we do not know if they will all be air cooled or water cooled, which makes a huge difference in our arid desert. And given the limited water that we have, and the valuableness for generations of our water, we also don't know what the energy demand will be. Like, we know that TEP, the just from Project Blue, TEP is being pushed. and stretched to provide the energy for just Project Blue. So taking into consideration, and I should mention that not all of um, the other data centers being considered are not all in TEP's service area, but they're tapping on other utilities, some of which are very small. So the impact then on energy demand and consumption and where that's going to come from, I think, is a huge concern for ratepayers. It's a huge concern around water, and it's a huge concern around what the implications are for folks who have been fighting and trying to get shut down the coal-fired power plants and trying to ensure that this gas infrastructure is not going to preclude us from a transition to clean energy, and then also all the greenhouse gas emissions from gas infrastructure. So I mean, it is all incredibly concerning. What we need, I think there's a missing strata, right? Because like Marana Town Council they've done some zoning and put some ordinances in place that have some protections. We have put some in place at the county for future that will be really useful. Sahuarita's got their own ordinances, but what we lack is popping up at that next level where we can look at a little bit of a big picture and seeing what all of these impacts are going to add up to. And and whether that is something at a role for like the Pima Association of Governments, or if there's something that we need to just do amongst ourselves for municipalities to look at how much water can be utilized and how much energy does this all add up to, and what does this mean for our residents, for our constituents, for the county. Anyway, that needs to happen.
I couldn't agree more. Um, I can see that we're running into some time constraints, but I always try to wrap these up with kind of two things. So first, let's talk a little bit about what it is that you would hope to convey about the importance of municipal government, not just to listeners here in Pima County, but just to the public in general. Um, if anything. Maybe your message is, you know what, I was wrong to get involved in this, stay away. But obviously, I think it's something that aside from it now being your job, I think the fact that you pursued that job, that you fought such hard fought campaigns, tells me that you're somebody who does place a high value on local government.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's because of where I come from, right? Like I have worked, before this, I was at the ACLU, I was at the League of Conservation Voters doing climate justice work. I worked on border and immigration issues, land rights issues, and we're mining, trying to stop mining on indigenous lands. So for 30 years prior to being in this office, I have been putting pressure on elected officials to do the right thing, because the decisions that elected officials make, that policymakers make, are so meaningful, and they have so much power to make good decisions and do things that can protect our land, our air, our water, our people for generations to come. And so for me, running and then, and thankfully winning, means that we can kind of skip a step, right? Like all the pressuring. I mean, I still ask for the pressure and don't hesitate. Please do. But it is a means to making better decisions that can affect our communities' lives for generations to come. Everything from, again, our land, our air, our water, our people, somehow tie into decisions that policymakers make at the local level. Our budgets affect people's lives profoundly, from housing to healthcare, from transportation, all of these things that are that social safety net, but also the things that help us build a prosperous community where we are not just surviving, but the keys to thriving. A lot of those decisions come down to local government. So I love what I do. I love that I am here, and I look forward to the next, 3 years and some change and yeah.
And I said that there's two things I always like to do to wrap these up. So the second is to take a step away from your day job and politics in general. Outside of being an elected official, outside of being a politician, who are you? What do you like to do? What are the things that bring you joy on a regular basis? And do you still find time for them in your current role?
I mean, I'm a mom. I have a 13-year-old son. I am a daughter. My parents are here. My husband's here. So I spend time with family and extended family. I love to hike. I get sort of renewed by being out. I camp. Got a little paddleboard. I like to get out on some of our little lakes. And then I also try to do something new and fun that I don't know how to do. I'm currently taking an improv comedy class.
Oh,
Before that, I took flamenco lessons, and I think pottery and maybe a class at the drawing studio is on my future to-do list.
nice. I mean, that is maybe the most well-rounded answer I think I've ever gotten to that question. So now we got a rapid fire from there. Which class that you've taken so far is your favorite, and which class that you are going to take are you most excited about?
Um, I mean the improv it is fun. I'll say it's hard because I'm a little bit of a so I'm like I want to curl in. I'm the last person to raise her hand to step up and volunteer to get up on stage. But it's fun. Um, and I'm looking forward to pottery though. It just sort of feels like it should be very soothing. My mom is a potter and makes beautiful work. And so I hope to, be able to make some crooked mugs or some, I don't know, we don't make ashtrays anymore. But
Hey,
whatever the equivalent is, a spoon rest.
I'm on the hunt for a good ashtray, so if you wind up making one, let me know. I could pay you for it. All right, similar format. Best campground in Southern Arizona and worst place to camp in Southern Arizona.
Oh, I mean, the thing here is that it all depends what time of year it is and how far you want to drive. Um, let's see, where did I just, I spent around 4th of July, I spent 4 or 5 days at the top of the Chiricahuas, um, Rustlers Camp, maybe. It beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It was chilly, it rained, it was gray. I loved it. I also loved just a quick, easy getaway. It's just to run up Mount Lemon. Um, General Hitchcock, I think, it's got the creek runs through it. So it is lovely. Worst, gosh, I don't know. I don't know that there is a worst. As
That's a
long
great
as it's not
question.
too hot, you can see the stars. I just think you're in good shape.
All right. Well, any final thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners with today?
Well, I just appreciate everybody's work at the local level, at the precinct level, and on up to build up Democrats, engaging folks in issues, engaging folks with their neighbors, and being active, and both on the issue front, but also voter turnout and participation front. It makes a huge difference. So a big thank you.
All right, everybody. That was Supervisor Jen Allen. This was the Pima Dems podcast. We will catch you next time. Thanks again, Jen.
Thank you.